guys, thanks for joining us on Family Life Today here on YouTube.
Make sure you subscribe. You don't want to miss any episodes, so hit the little bell and you'll get notifications and you won't miss anything. And if this encourages you, like it and share it with your friends.
Yeah, share it with your friends.
Yeah, welcome to Family Life Today.
I never understood why my parents divorced. They were Christians, quote unquote, and how could you not make it work if you know Jesus? I'm sitting at home, we're pastoring, we're 2 years in, I got to choose my wife. I said, now I know, because I think I could be without her.
Welcome to Family Life Today, where we want to help you pursue the relationships that matter most. I'm Ann Wilson.
And I'm Dave Wilson, and you can find us at FamilyLifeToday.com or on our Family Life app.
This is Family Life Today. So you've probably done hundreds, if not thousands, of weddings. You've
I don't
officiated.
know if I've done thousands. It feels like thousands sometimes.
And every single time, I feel like when you come home, you say the same thing. Do you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, I say, I'd love to say this at the wedding, but I would never do another wedding if I said what I'm really thinking. And it's like this, you know, you're looking at this couple and they're so in love and they're so excited and you want to say, there could become a day where you scream at your husband and say, the biggest mistake of my life was marrying you. Like my wife said 6 months after our wedding. I want to say something like that.
Like,
you know,
hey,
reality.
what you feel right now is going to drift or it will go away
but
at times.
Never at a wedding would you say that.
No.
You say it's going to be awesome, it's going to be wonderful, but we all know the reality is it's going to really, they're going to struggle.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we've got a couple in the studio today that wrote a book about that struggle, right? I mean, it's about, and by the way, he's a pastor as well, Kevin, and his wife, Marcia Myers from Atlanta, Georgia. Well, suburbs of Atlanta, right?
Right, exactly.
12-stone church. I'm guessing you've done hundreds, if not almost thousands of weddings.
It feels like it. And it's not unusual for me to say, hey, we love the love they're displaying. We walk away and say, this is going to be awesome watching them crash. It's going to fade like a flower, baby.
But the truth is, have you ever said that at a wedding?
No.
As the officiant, no.
And we didn't believe it about ours either.
Yeah.
Ours was going to be different.
We were going to be different than every single couple.
Yeah, but let's introduce you a little bit. You've been married 40 years?
We are hitting 39
years. 39 years.
39. So we're right on the cusp of 4 decades.
4 kids.
4.
Right.
And 4 grandkids.
Yes.
Woo-hoo.
Oh, they are amazing.
They are fun, aren't they?
Yes, they
so
are. They put a
fun,
spark in
too.
life.
Well, welcome to Family Life Today. We're really glad to have you here.
Thank you.
We're honored. Thank you.
And you've written a book called The Second Happy, 7 Practices to Make Your Marriage Better Than Your Honeymoon. And as I read through it, I mean, you really get into what we just talked about, how, and as a pastor, I'm sure you know this, thousands and thousands of weddings and marriages start well. Do they all struggle? Do you think they all hit? And it may not be a big struggle, but some kind of struggle.
We almost overstated it by saying if you're in the 1% who somehow has escaped the after the honeymoon experience of this fading and wondering if this was not one of the biggest mistakes of your life. If you're in the 1%, we literally wrote in the book, then just give this book to somebody else. But for the 99% of us who somewhere deep in the dark night of our soul are very aware that we probably made a huge mistake. 3 months in, 6 months in, even 2 years in. And that's the norm. I think it helps people to hear that because they don't believe it.
Right.
Because they're in love and it's awesome.
Yep.
But eventually, it hits everybody.
Well, what about you guys? Did that happen to you?
Yeah, I would say definitely. Just almost right away, we kind of butt heads. I'm a little stubborn, and he's very forceful.
Wow. I don't know if in the book or in all the interviews we've been doing the last couple of months, you used the word forceful. But
Marcia, it's coming out. I'm liking this.
Yeah, I just feel comfortable.
Good.
I think you guys are going to have a conversation after this interview about that. No, seriously, what do you mean forceful and stubborn?
Well, forceful, he knows what he wants. He knows what's right. in his own mind, and you're not going to change that. And
So
he
he's
can
a leader.
out-talk you. He's a leader,
Yeah.
most definitely, and he can out-talk you. Or at least he can out-talk me.
Yeah.
And me, my defense is stubbornness. No matter what you say, no matter how much sense you make, I'm still going to dig my heels in.
Do you shut down?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
you
would
don't
say.
fight back, but you'll shut down like, mm-mm, I'm not going there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, more of a passive-aggressive
Right.
kind of a stance. Yep.
So what happened? I mean, was there a crisis point or just the way it just sort of drifted or what?
Well, that's how I discovered she was stubborn. I married this incredibly delightful, godly, awesome, beautiful woman, highly talented, gifted. And then I got married and discovered that she's nicer to everybody than she is me. Now, years
So he
later, I can
says.
own some of this. But you remember one of the crises, so we're in ministry,
Right.
which means we have to be hospitable. So we're at a church. I, being more the extrovert, her being more the introvert, we would literally be at the church and I'm meeting people and I say, hey, why don't you come on over? And when I say come on over,
Oh, yeah.
I don't mean later.
No.
You mean
I
right
mean,
now?
why don't you follow us to the house?
No.
Yes.
And don't be so helpful to her.
Marsha, come and pull your chair by
Okay,
me, and
I'm
I'll put
moving
my
over.
arm around you. And you have little kids.
No, not at that point.
Oh, so you didn't even have
so
kids.
it's no. So
This
we're
is
just,
right at the
yes,
beginning.
this is. I demonstrated a great art of serving and love and kindness as a pastor toward my wife. It was awesome.
Yes. Meanwhile, in my head, it's like, no, don't do this. We don't have any food. Our house, I remember laying things on the floor and they're still sitting there. Like, no. But
And yeah,
it
and I
didn't
don't-
matter.
No, and I'm thinking, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be hospitable. So I would use scripture and
Yes.
big biblical thoughts against her.
Hospitality.
Yeah.
Oh, so in other words, he's manipulating you.
Wow, and
That's a good way of putting it.
This is why it's good to have a couple interview,
Hey,
isn't
do,
it?
do you know why she knows this so well?
yes, Dave, I
Like
get
she's
a
over there just
feeling.
saying, I've been there, right?
We've lived your life.
We've had
exactly.
a similar conflict with that. But the question is, did it get deep? I mean, that's a fight, maybe. But did it get, I mean, we got to a point in our
It got
marriage
deep.
where it was, we don't want to be together
We were
anymore.
resentful of one another.
Definitely.
Yeah, you tell them the.
Yeah,
I
when
think
we
the
were at the grocery store.
Yeah, we think that triggered it.
And what's weird is it's like a culmination because we don't remember exactly what we were fighting about, but we were like getting groceries. It
What
was
year? I mean, how many
probably
years married?
2 years in.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And we just started fighting in the grocery store. And
Hey, that's my pastor over there with his wife.
Oh, we made a scene. We made a scene in the in the
no.
freezer section.
we
Yeah?
weren't too far from our house, so he just left. And
Left?
I finished getting the groceries and getting them home. So
You didn't walk home.
yeah.
You know, I let her
Oh,
drive.
actually, no, yeah,
I walked
he
home.
walked home.
I just walked out of the store, walked home, and literally I sat at the door at home and I said, I never understood why my parents divorced. They were Christians, quote unquote, and how could you not make it work if you know Jesus? I'm sitting at home. We're pastoring. We're 2 years in. I got to choose my wife. I said, now I know. Because I think I could be without her.
Yeah.
I think I could be divorced.
Did you say that to her?
I said that to me.
Yeah.
I don't think I said it to you.
But
I
you
I do
felt
think
it.
I treated
Yeah.
you that way. We were on a rough road from then forward.
And
Really?
I think so many listeners are hearing this thinking, yes, we have been there. I think some are thinking, and we don't know how to get out. I like that we're going to talk about that today and how you guys got out of that. We've talked about it.
I mean, this is the very, very thing we talk about at the Weekend to Remember. We've been speaking for that conference for over 30 years. You know, there's this drift. You're either headed toward oneness, is what we say, or you drift toward isolation. And I tell you, when you go there and you start hearing us talk about that, you're like, we're living that. But by the end of the weekend, we're like, we can help you get out. We can show you the path to oneness. So here's the thing. If you're listening right now, you can sign up for a Weekend to Remember. It'll probably be in your city. And if you sign up right now, FamilyLifeToday.com, you get half off. That's
a good
great deal. Starts
Oh, wow.
Friday night. It ends on Sunday right around noon. And I'm telling you, God literally saves marriages. Go to FamilyLifeToday.com, sign up right now, and watch God take you on a path to oneness.
And keep listening because Kevin and Marcia are going to help us learn how we can get it out of that rut.
Yeah, Marcia, did you feel the same thing Kevin was feeling? Like,
Yeah, he's
Forceful?
forceful, which creates highs and lows in his personality. So I'm more steady. And so my thought was, oh, this isn't good. You know, it was probably half the intensity of his, but for me, definitely the final thought was, I don't want to get a divorce, but I don't know where to go next.
Yeah.
Like that would be where we would end up if we keep going on this path.
I think I was at the point, that same kind of thing where I was losing hope that it could be good again.
That is so defining.
Yeah.
Because I realize if we divorce, I'm out of ministry, I forfeit my calling. I don't know how to integrate who God said he is with all his promises and grace in our life. So we're just going to settle for misery.
Yeah.
I think a lot of marriages settle for misery.
Me too.
And they endure it.
Yeah, they do.
And some of them, well, we have kids, will endure it for our kids.
Yeah.
And by the other end, it's one of the reasons I think there is this huge drop-off when you become empty nester and the like. Your kids are the reason you stayed in to some degree.
And so many get divorced as soon as their kids leave. And that's still devastating even for their adult kids.
Oh, yeah.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Or they'll wait till they're high school even. They lost the love a long time ago. They're now just mechanically in the motions. And it's a very disappointing life. So
and
to
we're
lose
not
hope,
judging that. We get it.
we
We all get
actually,
that.
we're confessing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you're there, though, at 2 years. I mean, this is early.
What a gift.
Yeah,
right?
A lot of people.
Everybody couldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, you got there quick. Many people are like, we're still in our honeymoon at 2 years, but you are like, oh boy, this. So you got to talk. How'd you get out? I know some of it maybe relates to the zones you talked about in your book, which is a great way to explain this. But is that what happened? You got the A, the B. You can talk about it. I don't know. I don't know your zones. I play zone defense, but I don't know your zones. Right?
It's not too dissimilar, Dave. We didn't know this back in the day. So we'll talk from today's experience of development, but we think that you have to break the quit cycle. That's the first chapter. It's what we talk about.
Right.
And what we mean is everything in life, every endeavor, every relationship, every project, every job, doesn't matter what it is, every pursuit, everything you buy, it goes through 3 zones: A zone, B zone, C zone. So the A zone is full of promise. That's the honeymoon phase. That's when everything is awesome. That's the new car. That's the first day at school. That's the first day at the job. That's when you get married. Everything is beautiful.
You know what
it's
that is in
perfect.
Detroit? It's training camp.
You know, actually it is.
Everybody thinks the Lions, this is the year.
Every single team thinks that.
And you have to believe that.
Yeah.
Or you don't have the grit
Right.
to engage.
Yeah.
You have to have hope on the other side. You have to believe something's possible.
Yeah.
So the A zone is familiar to all of us.
Yeah.
But then, of course, every A zone gives way to the B zone. And the B zone is full of problems. This is not transforming. People don't have to take notes right now. It's not like, oh, I never knew that. We're just putting words to familiar experience that most people didn't expect to happen in their marriage.
Yeah.
And so the B zone is full of problems. And you live in those problems long enough, and you start losing hope. Mm-hmm. And we pause right there, and we just put at the bottom, and you tend to want a Q zone. You want to quit. And if we want to talk about that more here together, we can.
Well, and you guys were there a little bit. Like, take us back to the grocery store. You've walked home, and Marcia, you're like, oh, I'm going to drive home without him because he's left.
Right.
So many couples are there.
Yep.
People quit on little things before they quit on big things. So we might not have quit on marriage, but we quit on the things that would build a marriage. In that fight in the store, I quit honoring her. In the hospitality, invite somebody over to the house, I started with my perspective rather than hers. I couldn't hear her. I thought, what kind of pastor's wife is this? She can't invite people over. I didn't realize she was actually caring about people. We didn't have food. The house wasn't ready. We weren't doing a good job caring for people. If you can get to the other side, but people quit on these things. And so you end up in the cycle of A zone, B zone, Q zone, and then people chase A zones. So they have a life of shortcut, and you do that long enough.
Meaning they just want to get back to those good
you
feelings.
Chase A zones.
Yeah.
So people and relationships, people and careers, and educational pursuits, they fill in the blank. The problems are too much for them to endure The hill climb is too demanding, so you Q-zone.
Right.
And again, most of us Q-zone on small things.
Usually start all over again in another relationship or another career or another, whatever.
Something that makes them feel good
Right.
again.
And think, oh, this will be better. This is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And often you do that while you're still in the B zone of the first relationship.
Yes,
or,
you are.
Sure.
Or I've done this. You ever done this? You're in your car. You love it. It's awesome when you got it. And then you see another car go by and you're like, that's the car I really want. You do that in
Right.
relationships. You do that with churches. You do that.
Exactly.
Well, Dave, we did it because I'm thinking we're in the B zone in a troubled marriage. And so what do? I pour my life into my kids. That
Yes.
feels great. They're young. I'm
yeah.
going to pour that. They're filling me up. And you're pouring, you go to the A zone of your career. Like, I'm building this church. This is amazing. I'm getting applauded and accolades from my congregation more than at home.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. We escape into other things that will fill us up.
And it doesn't occur to us, Ann, that the B zone requires B zone muscle. There is a muscle required to grind through something to get to a C zone that's full of payoffs. And everybody wants the hope fulfilled. But to get there has a cost, an endurance, a demand. And so for us, we just had to figure out in marriage, what does it look like for us to exercise B zone muscle in the midst of problems and to care enough to get beyond quitting, so that this marriage has hope and possibility. In other words, you talk about the vow. How many marriages have you done? Hundreds, maybe thousands. That vow was easy to say.
Yep.
B-zone muscle is making good on that vow.
Yeah. And when you're up there as the pastor at the wedding and you're setting up the vows, at least I think this, I'm looking at the congregation or the wedding families and friends thinking many of them are going
Yes.
at the vows because
Yes.
they're like, yeah, we said those. They have no idea what they're saying, and they have no idea how hard the B zone's going to be to keep them.
Well, Dave, remember we were at one wedding and they decided to continue with the vows and add their own. And so this guy's up there he's flowery with his speech. He's
Yes.
like, I vow that every day I walk in the house, I will kiss you and hug you and notice you. I vow. I mean, he was getting so specific and I'm like, stop.
I wasn't doing that wedding. It was in our church, though, in our chapel, and I literally had to hold myself from snickering out loud, which is how terrible is that? That would be the worst thing ever.
Right.
But it was such a reality check, like you have no idea what you're saying right now because it's going to be so hard.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that B muscle.
Yeah.
How do you develop that?
Let's tell the bagel story. Sometimes you have a story
Yeah.
that marks your marriage
Yes.
and resets it. And you need a picture. So this
So
B-zone muscle for us.
You got the freezer in the grocery store. Now you got bagels?
Yeah,
Yeah,
check
we're
this
a
out.
food family.
As soon as I
don't know.
say it, Dave, you're gonna go, oh yeah, I get it. We all get it. Everybody's gonna get this. It's just we would work out together, and on the way to the workout club early in the morning, we would stop at the bagel shop. And so
That's why you're working out.
Exactly. And so we had to have a reason to work out. So we'd split this little ham and egg kind of bagel thing, and then this cinnamon bagel with this, what was it?
Honey almond schmear.
On the side. Now listen, that's way too much for one person and then work out, so we have it cut in half. So when we'd order, we just say, please cut that in half. Now, me being the husband, love my wife, I'm here to serve, wash your feet, it's a biblical concept. So when they call our name, Myers, I go up to the counter because I'm going to serve her, I'm going to get it. The problem is when I get to the counter, I have a dilemma immediately because I look down at the cinnamon sugar bagel with honey almond smear, and they cut it in half, and nobody can cut it in half properly.
Yeah.
One is always bigger than the other. It's got more smear. It's got more cinnamon. I immediately noticed that one half is better than the other. So I'm in a dilemma between the counter and the table. I'm going to place one on her plate. Which half do I give her? And it's driving me nuts because I'm immediately aware that I want the better half of the bagel, and my marriage vow is giving her the better half of the bagel. And that became a defining illustration for us of what it meant for, at least me, for me to love my wife. I have to give her the better half of the bagel. And when I don't, I'm quitting.
Yeah, that's
And
a
it's
great word
that
picture.
small. It's always that small.
What's the larger half of the bagel for you, Marcia? Are there times that you've thought like, oh, I need to do this, and it's difficult, but I'm choosing to build that muscle?
Definitely. I can give one example of he had this pullover. It was like a half zip, and he loved that pullover, wore it a lot, almost to the point that I wouldn't have minded it getting lost, but he...
Are we supposed to get this honest?
I know. I always kind of tend to get a little too deep. But anyway, he did lose it, and he was so upset. And we looked everywhere for this half-zip shirt. And like I said, for me, it was more like, well,
no big
he's
deal.
worn
It's
it
time
enough.
to be done.
Yeah. But I knew he loved it. He had gotten it as a gift from a conference that he had been at. So what I did was I went to the people who did the conference and asked them if they had any more, and secretly bought him a couple more.
That's so nice of you.
And so I'm not one to make a lot of efforts, but I thought, that I would, and I knew he loved it, and so that's what I did.
That's good, because that's a great example of you didn't necessarily love that he'd been wearing this all the time, but you were choosing as an act of your will to do something that would serve and that you would really appreciate. Yeah, that's good.
Hey, do this. Talk to the couple that's in the B zone and they are seriously considering quitting. Mm-hmm. Like right now, I mean, they're listening and they're like, okay, this is deep. I'm really discouraged. I've been there for weeks or months or maybe years. I'm thinking about quitting. I can't even imagine a C zone where we could be happy again, the second happy. What would you say to him?
Let me say a couple things. First of all, a friend of ours, John Maxwell, has said everything worthwhile is uphill. So you just got to embrace the weight of that truth. You want worthwhile things. You want a marriage that works. Secondly, you're not alone. Just by virtue of this conversation, Dave, that you and Ann are having with us, is to remind people you're not alone on this journey. Many have hit that place of wanting to quit and have moved on. So you're not alone. Third, because you're not alone and others have won, borrow their hope. These principles and practices and what you are teaching people, help people wake up to there are steps and process. You're not going to win it in a week. But if you'll do the right things next week, you get a better second week. And you do that again, you get a better third week. And you wake up to falling back in love. You find a second happy that you lost after the honeymoon. And it's doable.
I think for so many people, the goal of a rich, mutually satisfying, happy marriage, it's what all of us long for. The question is, do we know how to get there? And I think it's in the discouragement of not knowing how to get there that a lot of couples just give up hope. And what Kevin and Marcia Myers have been talking about today with Dave and Ann Wilson is that there is a second happy that is available to all couples. If they can point themselves in the right direction, get the help they need, it's there for you. In fact, Kevin and Marcia have written a book called The Second Happy, 7 Practices to Make Your Marriage Better Than Your Honeymoon. It's a book we've got in our Family Life Today Resource Center. You can order a copy from us online at FamilyLifeToday.com or call 1-800-FL-TODAY. And then let me also mention the Weekend to Remember Marriage Getaway for couples. For more than 4 decades, there have been hundreds of thousands of couples who have come to these weekend getaways and found the help and the hope they're looking for in their marriage. Wherever you are in your marriage, maybe you're in a good marriage and you just want it to be better, or maybe you're in a hurting marriage and you're looking for hope. The Weekend to Remember will walk you through a process to help align your marriage with God's design and help point you in the right direction as a couple. Right now, we have a special offer for Family Life Today listeners. You can register for an upcoming Weekend to Remember Marriage Getaway and save 50% off the regular registration fee. We've got several dozen of these events happening this spring in cities all around the country. Go to our website, FamilyLifeToday.com. There's a link there with information about where and when these getaways are being hosted in a city near where you live. You can also register online this week and save 50% off the regular registration fee. Or if you have any questions we can answer for you, call us at 1-800-FL-TODAY. Again, register online at FamilyLifeToday.com. Call with any questions, 1-800-358-6329. That's 1-800-F as in family, L as in life, and then the word today. Plan to join us this spring at one of our upcoming Weekend to Remember marriage getaways. Now, tomorrow, we're going to talk about how important it is for couples to know how to fight fair. I mean, conflict is going to happen in every marriage. What we have to learn how to do is how to manage conflict in a way that honors one another and gets us to some kind of healthy resolution. Dave and Ann Wilson will talk with Kevin and Marcia Myers about that tomorrow. Hope you can join us. On behalf of our hosts, Dave and Ann Wilson, I'm Bob Lepine. We'll see you back next time for another edition of Family Life Today. Family Life Today is a production of Family Life, a Cru ministry, helping you pursue the relationships that matter most.